Well, good morning, ladies, and welcome to day 5 of the Women's Empowerment Summit. I am so glad that you are here. And I just noticed as I was looking in the comments, Jill put up a wonderful comment, says, thank you to John and all the wonderful ladies who shared with us this week. It truly came at the best time for me. I'm so excited by the possibilities for growth and success. I've had several emails that have come in to the office as we've done this event over the week, and I've heard very similar stories. So Jill, thank you for sharing that in the chat with everyone today. I hope you'll have the chat box up and have an opportunity as we go through this last day to have an opportunity to be willing and be ready to ask a question of our speakers that we have today. I am extremely excited. I see Miss Patricia Allen has joined us, and she should be hopefully turning on her camera in a minute, so we'll get a chance to see her and have an opportunity to hear from her this morning, and so excited to hear her story and for you to have an opportunity to hear our story. Let me give you a little bit of information on Patricia Allen. Patricia Allen is a wealth advisor, a women's financial empowerment expert, a chartered retirement planning counselor. She's an award-winning author, a trainer, and speaker who specializes in helping women navigate the complex world of personal finance and wealth management. As a professional woman working in a male-dominated field for 25 years, Patricia has recognized that a woman's style of communication and her ways of learning are different than most men. She has earned a proven track record for providing an environment that supports women's natural style of communicating by helping them master the feminine approach to money, to allow them to deal with money with their heads as well as their hearts. Patricia stays focused on understanding the unique financial and emotional challenges that women face in a world that minimizes their competence to control their finances. As a lifelong volunteer, Patricia finds joy in giving back to her community. She is passionate about her family, which includes 5 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. Women and girls issues, healthy living, physical fitness, and personal development are all focuses of her life. When she's relaxing, Patricia enjoys sports, golf, arts and theater, gardening, bird watching, world travel, and music. Wow, what an opportunity to have you with us, Patricia. I am so glad that you are here. If you want to unmute your mic, I'm going to let you have the floor. We are so excited. I've still got ladies coming in. They'll be joining us as we go. And I so appreciate you being with us today and taking time to help us cap off what has been an amazing event of empowering, inspiring, and equipping women to see success. So the floor is yours. Thank you for being with us, and look forward to hearing what you have to share.
Well, thank you, Mr. John Terry, for the wonderful opportunity. I am humbled and honored to be able to speak at this lovely summit that you've held this week. It's been awesome. I've tried to tune in every day. I missed yesterday, but every day was so powerful and impactful. So I said, well, I got to bring it too. So here I am, and honored to be here to tell you guys about my story. As John has eloquently told you about my history, who I am, where I came from, and what makes me happy and fulfilled, and that's my family and my work. I've traveled the world, scaled the Eiffel Tower. I've hiked the outback of Australia, and I've eaten Italian gelato while overlooking the Tuscany Hills. I've helped thousands of women worldwide master the feminine approach to build wealth, to take control of their financial lives while using my blueprint system, Life by Your Design. I am living the life of my dreams, but my life hasn't always been this way. I want you to think about your life. Think about your life when you were faced with hardships, when you were faced with desperation, when you were faced with challenges. Write this down. I can do anything I set my mind to doing. What are the trials that made you stronger? What are the tests that made you wiser? What are the adversities that made you more resilient? I was the only girl of 7 children raised by a single woman who had no education or skills, and therefore we spent many years on welfare. I grew up in poverty and with a belief that I would never amount to anything. When I was 17 and unmarried, I had my first child. At 19, I fell pregnant again and was forced to get married. My son was born with facial paralysis. I forgot to put my speaker on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, you're coming through just fine.
Okay. My son was born with facial paralysis. We lost him when he was 33 days old. When I was 22, 8.5 months pregnant, I caught my ex-husband bringing another woman to our home. I was divorced at 23. I found myself with 2 young children with no education and no skills on welfare, just like my mom. I scaled every hurdle that the welfare system placed in front of me, and in so doing, gave up my dignity, piece by tearful piece. I will never forget the times when I heard a certain family member say, "You will never amount to anything." Those words made me feel like damaged goods. Years later, my high school counselor came alongside me and said, "You can do anything you set your mind to doing." Two significant people in my life communicated two powerful messages. One message had the power to destroy me. The other had the power to take me far beyond anything I could ever imagine. You can do anything you set your mind to doing. That was the message that I clung to. And I knew the only way to get off the welfare track was to go back to school. Welfare paid for my education. Welfare saved my life. During my last year of college, I was assigned to do an internship at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation in Cleveland, Ohio. A few, a few months into that internship, the hospital administrator approached me and offered me the job to head the medical records department. I told him that I would think about it. The thoughts that were running through my mind were, how can I work? How can I go to school and take care of 2 kids? Well, after I slapped myself into reality with the knowledge that I had overcome challenges harsher when I was 19, I quickly accepted the job. My first major task was to write an annual review for a woman employee my mother's age. She was mean. She was scary. She seethed with resentment, and she did her best to intimidate me. And believe me, I was scared. I knew in my heart that this was a test that I had to pass. I had to dig deep and find the courage. She was not a good worker, and I had to stand in integrity while shaking in my boots to tell her the truth. I passed the test of intimidation, and I began earning the respect of the other employees. I was afraid, but I did it anyway. I love my job. I met interesting people. I had clout throughout the hospital, notoriety, highly respected as a medical records administrator, one of the largest hospitals in the United States. Life was good until it wasn't. When I came home and I found that my home had been burglarized. I found another place within 2 weeks and I was gone. And then it happened again. My closets were bare. My home had been violated twice in 1 month. I was a nervous wreck, paranoid to leave my house, I was afraid that I would lose everything. Because I was good friends with my neurologist, he signed off on me taking a leave. When I returned to work, the atmosphere was not very warm, fuzzy, or friendly. The stress was just too much. And so I resigned. I began doing part-time work as a consultant for nursing homes, which allowed me to have lots of time that I spent at the mall. I met this woman who worked in the boutique and we became very friendly. Her name was Jerry. And I saw her quite often. And I asked her, how can you work here and be a flight attendant? Well, she said, I only work about 2 weeks out of the month. I perked up. Oh, wow. I want a job like that because I wanted to spend more quality time with my kids. Jerry brought me an application, and within 4 weeks, I was off to Chicago for training. I love flying the friendly skies. I got to spend quality time with my children, and we took our first vacation to Hawaii. But on February 3rd, 1992, the friendly skies were not so friendly. I was working a flight between San Francisco and Phoenix when we hit clear air turbulence. My foot got caught under a 500-pound beverage cart and my ankle went crunch, crunch. I sustained a compound fracture on both sides of my ankle, which took me out of commission for nearly a year. When it was time to return to work, I developed plantar fasciitis in that same foot. United Airlines had ordered a qualified medical examination, which was designed to determine the extent of my disability because they wanted to settle my case. Well, I told them that my ankle was fine, but I had plantar fasciitis. It didn't matter. They told me that I had to keep the appointment, and so I did. I went back to work, totally healed 1 month later. And when I checked in for my flight, I was told that I'd been pulled off the trip. The report had come back that I was 100% disabled and was no longer able to fly. But that wasn't true. The United Airlines doctors wouldn't return my calls. My supervisor wouldn't return my call. And my doctor said he didn't want to get involved. I felt like a lone woman stranded on a desert island, screaming at the top of my lungs, will somebody help me? I was angry. I felt abandoned. I can't go down like this. Then I hired an attorney. After months of stress, no money, no job, no hope, my case was settled. I won. I got my job back. I was Dana, and United Airlines was Goliath. And I slayed that big, bad, billion-dollar corporation. Not with a slingshot, but with the truth. I was afraid, but I did it anyway. It felt good to know that I stood up for myself. I took a leap of faith. I stuck to my convictions because we're risk takers, aren't we? It wasn't just about the principle. It was about my life, my livelihood. Everything that I had worked so hard for was at stake of being taken away from me. If there's no great risk, there's no great reward. You will have experiences that will teach you more and more. And each time your courage will get bigger. Then pretty soon you don't even need courage. You're just living in it. After being off for 2 long years, I blew through my savings, filed for bankruptcy. My house almost went into foreclosure. My son had to move in with me to help me pay the mortgage. My confidence was in the toilet. Will I end up on welfare again? Poor, dependent? I took on part-time jobs while I was flying to build up my cash reserves. But after a year, I recognized that my savings weren't growing. And I wanted to know how to make my own money grow. So I took a course at the local college. And after the first night of that investing course, I got it. I understood what a stock was, and I wanted to learn more. Within a few months, I was hired by a major brokerage firm. I didn't even know what a brokerage firm was at the time. I was like a fish out of water. I wasn't good at sales, and I couldn't find my own voice in a room full of men. I had to navigate my own ignorances and finances and the roadblocks of feeling I am not worthy to be advising other women. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel that I belonged in that field of financial services. I felt the shame. What would people think of me if they knew that I had been on welfare? For years, I tried to prove that I was good enough and that I had something to offer other women who struggled to understand their money. I was trying to prove that I belonged in whatever space I stepped in, every conversation that I had, every table that I sat in, that I had something important to say that was valuable, that I was good enough. Michael Jordan is widely considered to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And yet, he was cut from his high school basketball team because his coach didn't think that he had the talent. Richard Branson, owner of the Virgin Empire, is a high school dropout. Most of us will stumble and fall in life. Doors will get slammed in our faces, and we might make some bad decisions. But imagine if Michael Jordan had given up on his dream to play basketball when he knew that he had been cut from that team. Imagine if Richard Branson had listened to the people who told him that he would never do anything because he was a high school dropout. Think about the opportunities that you'll miss if you let your insecurities or failures stop you. Standing in my value of realizing that I have worth has given me the courage to believe in myself. If you're not stepping up and taking responsibility for your career, you're not truly living your purpose, giving your gifts, and standing in your value. I endured because I expected something better for myself. Expect something better for yourself, and you won't have any regrets. As a former flight attendant, I've probably been on hundreds of flights where there have been many delays, some significant, more significant than others. Some delays are unavoidable, and many times it's because of weather or changing wind patterns. I remember one trip I was working from San Francisco to New Zealand, and we were out about 20 minutes and the situation changed. The wind currents were a little different from those predicted before takeoff, so we were slightly off course. The captain made the adjustments that we were headed again to New Zealand. When he was a little off course, the captain didn't turn around and go back to San Francisco to make a fresh start. He made a few adjustments and was back on course. The same is true when I started my financial services career. I struggled to get clients because my database couldn't fill up an Excel spreadsheet. I was feeling sorry for myself. I felt small because I didn't feel that I could compare to my peers. But comparison is a thief of joy. It did nothing to build my self-esteem. And then I recalled what my high school counselor said to me, that you can do anything you set your mind to doing. I couldn't throw in the towel, give up on all of the success I had created by passing all of my exams. So I changed my marketing strategy. I started aggressive networking, joined the Chamber of Commerce. I bought phone lists and started making tons and tons of calls day in and day out, and powered forward with my mantra, I can do this no matter how hard I tried. I can do this. Many people have asked me, how did I overcome so many challenges? In 3 words: determination, tenacity, grit. I was like a tumbleweed failing forward and growing along the way. That's what life is, failing forward to keep you moving in the direction of your dreams. But you have to believe that you can do it. You have to believe that you can be it. You have to believe that you can have it. So in life, be prepared to make some small adjustments because of these diversions that will happen and take you off course. You don't change your decision to move forward. You change your direction to get there. When I learned to value myself more, my perception of money changed. And money started coming into my life. Women are socialized to accept what is given. I don't know about you, but that was the way it was in my home with my mom. When I first got started in the financial services business, that is what I that is what I did. I accepted what was offered. I didn't ask questions until I did. I found out that the other guys were making more money than I. It didn't feel right. It didn't make sense. I was raised to believe that all you needed to get recognized was to keep your head down, work hard, and your turn will come. But I had just seen firsthand that this wasn't necessarily true. Indignation began to set in. I am worth more than this. I am worth more than this. I am worth more than this. As my heart was racing, I am worth more than this. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a strong, confident, and capable woman gazing right back at me. Here was a woman ready to claim her value, her worth, her place in the world. And that woman was me. That was a pivotal moment in my life. It was the right thing. It was right then and there that I realized that I had a choice to cave or to claim my power. No one can make me feel worthless unless I allow them to do so. If you're good at what you're at, don't even consider settling for less. You can't rely on others to notice your value or tell you what you're worth. I have 3 words for you. Know your value. When we start valuing ourselves more, we make better decisions in our life, better decisions with our supervisors, our superiors, our clients, and we earn more money too. Have a mindset that sees yourself worthy of receiving all that you want in life and that you ask for it. Knowing what you want and asking for it places you in a position of confidence and power. Become a courageous woman that does not need to be chased, that not need to be chasing opportunities or clients because they will chase you. You'll attract those who appreciate what you have to offer and will pay you for the value that you bring into their life. Never allow your true thoughts and feelings, beliefs, and desires to take a backseat to your fears of rejection, your fear of loss or being judged. Fear is not here to stop you. Fear is here for you to walk through. I am worth more than this. Every time I stepped through my fears and made significant strides, my confidence grew. I was scared, but I did it anyway. With each leap of faith, I began to feel that I had value, that I had worth. I rejected the words of scarcity and changed my financial outlook. I denounced the traditional ways of handling money and changed my bank account. I chose positive affirmations and changed my financial future. I swore to do things differently than my family and changed my financial outlook. I refused to believe that struggling was a way of life and changed my financial future. When I changed my environment, I changed my life. I took every opportunity to remind myself that I could take pride in having survived challenges and hardships before, that I was resilient, I was determined, and I could find my way in any situation. I had to comb through my chaos, divorce, discrimination, disability, and my own failures with the willingness to forgive. I had to work through my anger and find a way to get rid of the resentment and victim mentality. I had to choose forgiveness. I chose to move forward, and that was empowering for me. I learned that change was not just possible, but necessary. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "No man steps into the same river twice, and it's not the same river. He's not the same man." I changed not only myself, but the river. And that empowered me to believe that I can do anything that I set my mind to doing. Forgiveness removed the hands, the bonds that held me down. I felt the anguish and guilt slowly leave me. And then I finally felt free. I fell, I got up. I fell again, I got up again, over and over and over again until I was steady on my feet. We all fall, but we must stand again and again and again. I became the master of my reality with I can. I can't has always been a trigger for me that reminded me of my failures. All of my life, I was told what I shouldn't, I couldn't do, and what I could never achieve. I was drilled about my failures over and over again. I no longer use that word, I can't. Deciding that you are incapable of something even before you tried means that you've given up. I'm not a quitter. Winners never quit, quitters never win. I inherited my mom's tenacity and I began to put it to good use. I can became my new mantra. You too can become the master of your reality. Take the first step, then another. It always seems impossible until it's done. We're headed toward time, not too many years from now, when women will control the lion's share of wealth in the United States. Yet, what I know from hearing from most women is that when it comes to feeling in control of that money, we're not there yet. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping women become more engaged in their financial lives. It's my purpose, it's my calling. We have to deal with our own money blocks. The reason why I have achieved success at doing what I do is because I learned about my money and my personal problems that I had to get over. I did the internal work to heal myself and change my mindset and my perspective about my worth. And now I am at peace with that it's okay for me to be wealthy. And then I could be successful in helping other women create wealth. How can you help your clients be wealthy if you don't believe that you can be wealthy yourself? Make sure you work through your own blocks and baggage. You are a pillar of strength, wrapped in beauty. Believe in yourself. I believe in you. You are greater than your circumstances. I've shared my life to inspire you, empower you to achieve your goals, no matter what life has been throwing at you, the challenges, anything that you may face. My life on welfare was not the story that defined me. My life, what defines my life, is what I did about it. You've been given the innate power to shape your own life. but you cannot just speak change. You have to live change. You cannot just want it. You have to be it, do it, live it. Life is a question, and how you live your life is the answer. Believe that you can do anything you set your mind to doing, and you're halfway there. Thank you.
Wow, Patricia, thank you for a very inspiring message. I love that statement. I can do anything I set my mind to doing. That is a powerful life statement. I think of how many of us could just take that statement, put it on a little Post-it note, and have an opportunity to stick that on our bathroom mirror so that every morning when we get up, we look at that and we remind ourselves, I can do anything I set my mind to do. What a powerful way to start your day. And then you get to have that man in the mirror, woman in the mirror moment at the end of the day when you go back getting ready for bed, and you got to look at that same sticky note and go, did I live that out today?
Mhm.
And then there becomes that accountability that's there. Now, you talked about a couple of things, and I wrote down a couple of things I wanted to ask you further about. You talked about becoming a person of value and how that was life-changing for you. When did you first begin to make that discovery? At what point in your life did you begin to realize that you were a person of value? And what did
Mhm.
that do for you?
I would say it started after college. I met twins, Rana and Renee, in college, and we became very, very good friends. And I love them because of the way they managed their money and handled life. I wanted to learn more. I became more of a sponge, and they taught me a lot about money. And I'm like, okay. What she said was that uh, that having a positive mindset was the doorway to wealth. And that stuck in my mind. Okay, this is what I've got to do and think positive about money. And that was like in my early 20s when I learned that. And that's when I began to, surround myself with other people who thought in terms of success instead of failure. I wanted just be as a sponge around people who had value, who showed me the kind of value that I wanted in my life and that I wanted to replicate. They were very successful people, and those are the people I began to rub shoulders with. And that is how I call it osmosis, just by, what do they say? That saying, you are the representative of the people, 5 people that you're in your life. And I've held that very close to my heart since my 20s. I'm very conscientious of who I hang around with because of the mindset thing. But that's when I started to understand that, standing in my value was very important. But then it was still a process to get there through all of the challenges that I went through over the years, many years. It was still a process because, the mind can be like a rubber band. It can expand it, but then it retracts right back to that original state. And so you're constantly having to remind yourself and writing affirmations and saying these mantras over and over again. I did a lot of mind talk, self-talk, and not believing, and I would say not allowing the negative chatter of what was going around me. People saying, "Oh, she was on welfare." I heard that a lot. She was on welfare. She didn't never have anything, and it would not penetrate my mind. It just kept bouncing off, bouncing off, bouncing off. And so I just built up resilience to all of that. And to this day, I'm so grateful that I don't allow what other people think of me to determine my my worth.
That's a great answer. Early on in the conversation, as you were talking, you talked about the two messages that were being delivered to you. One message that was, you're never going to amount to anything. And then a second message that you can do anything you set your mind to doing. At the end of the day, we get to choose which message we believe. And most folks don't understand that. You don't have to accept the negative status quo, limited thinking other people want to put on you.
Mhm.
But how many of us do that? I think of parents as I watch parents tell their kids that, well, you'll never amount to anything, or you're always going to be worthless, or you're going to end up being, just like your grandpa. And they want to make these comparisons, and they put their kids in a box, and it limits their potential to grow. And I love the fact that you realized early on that you had a choice between those two messages, and you chose the message of possibility thinking. You chose the message of looking at the outcomes that could be. And instead of thinking about, dealing with just where you were, you saw that where you were, you didn't have to stay there. And I think that's so empowering for people, is that no matter where you find yourself, there's an opportunity for growth. Now,
Yes.
you talked about failing forward in the pursuit of your dreams. One of the questions I want to ask is, you talked about being afraid, but you did it anyway. Are there times you still feel afraid in your practice? And what have
Mhm.
you learned from the fear and the failures that you've experienced?
Mhm. I tell people all the time, I'm afraid all of the time. I'm afraid right now. I'm always afraid. I think it's a part, it's just a natural part. I don't know. For me, I'm always afraid, but then I know I have to do it anyway. Anytime a challenge is put in front of me, I was challenged to write my book. I never had the desire to write a book, but my mentor and spiritual coach, she challenged me because she knew that I never really talked about my money story. Not that I guess I guess psychologically she figured out I was afraid, ashamed. But anyway, we were in a group setting at her mastermind group, and she sat up in the front of the room and she made the announcement, Patricia is going to write a book. She's writing a book. And the title of the book is Welfare to Wealth, the money story I never wanted to tell. She gave me the name and the subtitle. And I'm like, what Patricia is she talking about here? Me write a book. I never thought about writing a book. But when I'm challenged, and even when I'm afraid, I will prove to myself that I can do it. And that is my mantra. I was afraid. I did it anyway. I can do anything I set my mind to do it. You challenge me, and I will do it.
I love it. I remember a similar story when I wrote my first book. I had spent some time with a gentleman. He was the Christian CPA on the 700 Club, and had actually come out and spent a summer in our church and was teaching financial principles from the Bible. And so I was his escort the entire month he was there. And as I drove him back to the airport and he got ready to leave on a plane, he turned and looked at me and he said, God's given you a gift. What are you going to do with it? And 27-year-old kid, I said, I don't have a clue. He smiled. He says, go write a book. I did. It'll change the world. And I remember for 2 nights, I couldn't sleep trying to figure out, how do you write a book? So I went and bought a computer I couldn't afford, tried to write a book I didn't know how to write. And that book literally went around the world. It was just phenomenal to see that.
Mhm.
And you've experienced that in your lives. Now, as a wealth advisor, and you're working with women, what's one of the areas that you find that's a common area that you're having to help women up level their knowledge or up level their understanding so that they can better manage the financial resources they have?
First of all, I always start the foundational principles in my method of teaching is to establish, excuse me, the first step is for women to find out, to discover, to define and deepen their connection to their purpose. What is their why? What is it that drives them? What are the values that motivates them in our lives? And many times we put our purpose and our values and the things that are important to us, kind of like on the back seat, on the back burner, because we are just motorboating forward to do what we want to do, but not really thinking about why we're here. Most women use money for things like paying the bills, just making ends meet. They don't think about using their money for the things that they value. So that's foundational in helping women to understand that money is a tool. It's nothing to be fearful for, because many women are scared of money, not really scared of money. They say they're scared of money, but they're scared. Where their fear of money is the fear and the uncertainty of what money is about in their lives. And so getting them over the fear and the anxiety when it comes to talking about money, we take care of that in the first step and working with them, understanding your values, understanding your why, your purpose, and then aligning those goals uh, so that they're not disconnected, because we've been coached all of our lives, make goals at the beginning of the year. But by mid-February, those goals have gone out the window, right? And the reason why we fail at keeping those goals, achieving those goals, is because those goals are not connected to something that's meaningful. And so that is part of the aligning values and goals. You do not set goals before your values, because that's like putting the cart before the horse. So
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
foundational there. And getting women comfortable with who they are and what they want to do with their money, then we can move on to the next level of dealing with managing that money.
Do you deal with mindset with women and helping them overcome maybe a fear that I can't do this? Because I know you talked about I can't being something you threw out of your vocabulary.
Yes.
One of my mentors, and I shared it earlier in the week, is Chris Robinson. And Chris has a statement I think is phenomenal, and I use it a lot of times in coaching. He says, it's not that you can't, it's that you won't.
Right.
And that choice is yours.
Mhm.
And that's a powerful statement
Mhm.
to really challenge the status quo that you're dealing with. But do you find women have a particular limited belief or a mindset about money that you've got to reshape on the front end?
Oh my God, it's a chore. It's a chore, and I'm thinking I need to take a course on mindset, in order to be more effective. And so I do work with people that do specialize. As a matter of fact, I just recently had a boot camp, and I brought in someone all the way from Zurich, Switzerland, that I met when I was there with my book for my book signing, who is a transformational coach on mindset. And I shared, he talked about money mindset, because I need help with this. My knowledge is very limited, but so I try to cut through it the best that I can in helping them to feel comfortable with that money, because it really is a challenge. It is certainly a challenge. And I'm sure many of the women here will probably find that's true in their practices as well.
Sure. Now, you talked about forgiveness and the fact that you had to forgive yourself for some of your beliefs and some of the things that held you back. Uh, when you began to forgive yourself, what changed?
When I began to forgive myself for my failures, the things that I've done wrong, because I was a young mother at the age of 17. Of course, I've made lots of mistakes. And so I had to look back on my life and begin to understand that I did the best that I could, that my heart was always in the right place. And I had to just give myself a break and forgive myself. And then that was when things began to open up for me, to be a little bit more forgiving of others as well, the people that hurt me. I talked about the disability with United Airlines. I didn't talk a lot about the divorce, the husband that cheated, that told me, um, I'm just not a one woman type of guy. I'm like, I wish you told me that before we got married. And then the discrimination that I faced throughout my career. When I was living in Oklahoma was the worst time of my life. I had to look back and I had to just think about all of those things and forgive, because it was like a cancer. It grows. It doesn't make you feel better. It just makes you feel worse. And you have to lighten it up. And so that's just always a turning point. And I think forgiveness comes in stages in our lives, you know, bits by bit. And then you begin to pull it all together and begin to realize that your heart is softened, you know, that you're no longer as bitter about those things. And had to do a lot of internal work on healing myself, because being bogged down with unforgiveness, it's a heavy weight.
Yes, it is. So, Patricia, as we get ready to wrap up our time together, I want to say thank you for sharing from your heart and sharing your story. What an amazing story. Now, if the ladies that are on the call, either live or going to be watching the replay, if they want to get a hold of you or they want to get a copy of your book, which I highly recommend, how do they do that?
Well, you know, I could put my information in the chat, but I don't have the link for the book. But the book, you can get it on Amazon,
Okay.
and it's Welfare to Wealth: The Money Story I Never Wanted to Tell. Put in the chat my website, and that will have my contact information there. And I think even my book will be there, information on the
Perfect.
book.
Yeah, if you
Thank
could
you
do
for
that in
that.
the chat during the break, I would love for the ladies to be able to have information so they can reach out to you. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break, give all of you ladies an opportunity to grab a drink, run the restroom, make a phone call, check email, whatever you need to do. We will be back here straight up at the top of the hour. And I want to share with you something personal that I put together for you ladies I think will be helpful in letting you think about your marketing and your branding and your messaging. And if you want to learn how to get in front of more qualified prospects and begin to attract people to you and your business, you're going to want to be here for this last hour. I'm going to share some information with you I think will be beneficial. Matter of fact, I know it will be beneficial. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you, ladies. So, Miss Patricia, thank you. Ladies, if you want to jump in the chat and just share some love with Miss Patricia, that would be awesome as well. Thank you for sharing with us. I'm so glad Gary introduced us, and looking forward to furthering the conversation with you and seeing how I can continue, and we here at Vision can continue to help you fulfill your mission to empowering women to learn to manage wealth better. So we're going to
Thank
take
you,
a quick
John.
break. Absolutely. So
Mhm.
thank you, ladies. We'll be back at the top of the hour. Well, ladies, welcome back to our final hour of our Women's Empowerment Summit. I wanted to take just a minute and give a shout out to my better half, my lovely wife that you see pictured here. Hopefully you can see that picture of my beautiful wife, Yuri. We've been married for 26 years. We've got 6 kids that roam around our house, and she is the glue that kind of holds everything together. And I just wanted to give a shout out to an amazing lady in my life, and just thank her for all the amazing things that she does. So with that, I want to come back to where we are and getting forward to jumping into this very last hour of training. Now, as we get started in this last hour, I want to encourage you, if you don't have a piece of paper handy, grab a piece of paper, because we're going to walk through some conversations about sales and marketing and branding and how you are seen in the community. One of the big challenges that we all face in the financial services industry is, how do we stand out in the crowd? How do we be recognized when in our particular community, there might be dozens or even hundreds of people that do what it is that you do? And as a result of that, how can you be distinguished as unique and different? I want to share some tips to do that, but this is going to be an interactive opportunity for us to work together. So I hope you have the chat box open, because I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to want you to throw some answers in. Not going to be somebody that's going to be insulting or pick on anybody, but I do want to get some feedback, because it's going to help the dynamic of who we are and what we do as we move forward. So with that being said, we're going to get ready to jump right into a presentation that I want to share with you about what I love to call the ultimate sales funnel. Having an opportunity to see success in a unique and amazing way. I'm going to turn my camera off so it's not a distraction, and we're going to jump right into talking about how you can uniquely distinguish yourself and have a system that's going to get you in front of more and more customers. Now, of course, I want you to make sure your phone's on mute. You got every other app closed. We want to encourage you to take some notes. This is part of an 8-hour training series that I teach. And when we do the full 8 hours, there's a notebook, and I'm going to provide the entire training to you as my gift for you being a part of this summit this week. So at the conclusion of that, I'm going to share how you can access all 8 hours of this sales training. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about session 1, who you are and what you uniquely do. In the follow-up sessions you're going to have access to, you're going to learn a different way to market yourself. You're going to learn how to transition yourself by using the selling secrets of the top 5%. And then I'm going to teach you in session 4 how you put everything together that you've learned so that you can uniquely surround it with your practice. But I want to start with setting some expectations. And when we think about setting expectations, you may say, John, it's a lobster. Why would we set expectations with a lobster? Well, I came across a poem several years ago by Dr. Orrin Marsden that I thought really spoke to what I wanted to share today. And here's what he said. He says, a lobster, when left high and dry among the rocks, has not the instinct and energy enough to work his way back to the sea, but he waits for the sea to come to him. And if it does not, the lobster remains where he is and he dies, although the slightest effort would enable him to reach the waves which are perhaps within a yard of him. Now, the world is full of human lobsters, men and women who are stranded on the rocks of indecision and procrastination, who, instead of putting forth their very best energies, are waiting for some grand billow of great fortune to set them afloat. We've heard over the last 5 days about women that decided they were not going to stay where they were. They were not going to let their current situation define them, but they were willing to put forth energy of their own to move forward. One of my mentors is Christian Simpson. He is an entrepreneur success coach to multimillionaire entrepreneurs in the UK. And one of the things that Christian challenged me on early on in my life was an understanding of this, that my business and the quality of life that it affords me and my family will never outperform the quality of thinking that I bring to my business. Now, the same is true for you. Your business, whatever your business is, whether it's life insurance, annuities, long-term care, Medicare supplement, property casualty, stocks and bonds, your business that you are engaged in and the quality of life that it affords you and your family will never outperform the quality of thinking that you bring to it. So the challenge Christian always challenges me is, John, develop the owner, not the business. So for the next few minutes, I want to stretch your thinking in the area of sales, marketing, and branding. And we want to give you an opportunity to think about your business maybe in a different way, but in a way that can bring about a better outcome for you and the customers that you serve. Another one of my mentors is Paul Martinelli, who you see a picture of here. Paul was a high school dropout. He stuttered. He had dyslexia. He had a number of issues that he dealt with. He was one of those people, like we heard from Patricia, that was told, Paul, you will never amount to anything. Well, Paul announced one Sunday morning, as the family had gathered for the traditional Sunday lunch, that he was going to open a cleaning business. He was mocked and he was ridiculed by his family, but he set out to do it anyway. He got a bucket, some water, and a little squeegee, and he started cleaning the windows of downtown business owners. And he didn't tell them ahead of time he was going to do it. He just started cleaning windows. Business owners would run out and say, what are you doing? He would say, well, I noticed when I walked by that your windows were dirty. And it's the very first impression someone that wants to frequent your shop is going to have. And if the window's dirty, they can't see in and see your merchandise. And if they see the store's dirty on the outside, maybe they're not going to come in because it's dirty on the inside. And then he made a pivotal switch. He'd say, if you had a good cleaning company that cared as much about the outside appearance of your business as they do mopping your floors on the inside, maybe you'd get a better result from your business. Paul built a multi-million-dollar cleaning business as a result of starting out and thinking outside the box. Now, I want to challenge you to do the same in your practice as we go through this particular session. What I'm talking about is authenticity. I want you to think about your business and where you are right now. Is it satisfying all of your needs? Is your business as successful as you want it to be? Are you getting in front of enough qualified prospects on a regular basis? And do you have a system in place that attracts customers to you? And once they are attracted to you, do you have a system to convert those customers into individuals that are doing business with you? And once they do business with you, do you have a system in place so that you can replicate additional sales to solve other money problems they have, but at the same time, train those customers that you've spent money on to become a customer of yours, to know you, like you, and trust you enough that they're willing to engage and do business with you? How do you turn them into walking, talking, living, breathing billboards that introduces people just like them into your business so that this sales cycle becomes repetitive? This is what we call the attractional advisor model. And what I'd like for you to do is just to have that woman in the mirror moment that you got to stop and look at yourself and ask yourself, do I truly have those 4 elements in my business? Because if you don't, you are acting just like 95% of the mediocre and average financial professionals in the marketplace. Incredible potential, but until that potential is fully realized, it's like putting your hands on a set of barbells, thinking I'm going to lift weights and I'm going to build up a great physique, but you never pick up the weights and start the exercise. Now, there's an honest truth that we all have to deal with. And I want you to think about this. It comes from one of my mentors, who's Dan Kennedy, really the godfather of direct response marketing. And Dan says this, he says, you can have the very best product in the world. You can have the very best service in the world, and you can provide great value to your customers. You can be the very best sales professional in the world, but guess what? You can still starve unless you have one thing. Now, what is that one thing that you need to be able to see the ultimate success in your business? Here it is. You need to have a reliable, predictable, consistent system that affordably and efficiently provides you with an abundant quantity of quality prospects, leads, clients, and referrals. Now, who in the call doesn't want that? A reliable, predictable, consistent system that replicates itself over and over again, that affordably and efficiently gives you the opportunity to create an abundant quantity of not just prospects, but quality prospects, quality leads, quality clients that ultimately bring you quality referrals. That's what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. Now, it's a proven process that we start with a prospect, somebody that potentially wants what it is that we have to offer. And if we can attract them to what we do, they become a lead. If we can convert that lead through our sales process, whatever it may be, now we have the opportunity to make a sale and turn them into a client. Now, over 80% of the time, this is where the sales process stops for most individuals in the financial services industry and every other type of selling that's around today. However, if you'll notice, there's a way to continue to fill this sales funnel by adding an additional element, and that's replicating the clients that you have to get repeat business, but also to turn them into a referral source for you. Now, while this is a proven process that works, there's a problem with this process. And we've gone through this over the last year. Our world has changed. Who would have thought that a year ago in January, an unknown virus would infect the globe, and all of a sudden our cheese has moved? The markets reacted kind of crazily to that. The world locked down, and parts of the world are still locked down. We saw it become a major issue. And how do we as a government and all of the governments around the world deal with this? But here's what we know as I speak to you as a behavioral intelligence coach. People today are afraid. They're very, very much afraid of what they've dealt with in the pandemic, how it's reshaped their financial future, and they don't know what the prospects of their future are. Many of them are so fearful and anxious, they can't sleep at night. They have a conversation going on in their head, and they realize they have a money problem. But the problem with the money problem is they need somebody to solve the problem, but they don't know where to go. Now, this also creates a problem for you if you are not marketing yourself correctly. Because although there are people out there that are afraid, that are fearful, that want and need what you have to offer, if you are not properly marketing yourselves, well, guess what? People don't know who you are. Well, maybe they know who you are, but they don't know what you do. Or maybe they know who you are and what you do, but they don't know how you uniquely do it that makes you different and distinct from everybody else that's standing on the stage with a microphone in hand saying, I'm a financial advisor, come and pick me. So why don't they know who you are and what you do and how you uniquely do it? Well, chances are, unless you've had an opportunity to work with an organization or to work with a company that can help you really market in an effective way, you end up stinking at marketing. You try to do it yourself to save a few dollars. Maybe you go watch a YouTube video or you go attend some course that somebody's offering and you attempt to learn pieces of it, but without understanding and having an appropriate and effective marketing system in place. There are a few things that happen. Number one, your business is being robbed every day. Now, just like Patricia talked about coming home not once, but twice and finding her apartment ransacked and her clothes and all of her valuables gone, every day your business is being robbed financially. Now, what do I mean by that? If people don't know who you are and what you do, you're invisible to them. Now, think about that for just a minute. If your ideal target customer doesn't know who you are, what you do, and how you uniquely do it, you're invisible. And if you're invisible and your competition isn't, and your prospect has a need that they need somebody to help them solve, who are they going to call? Well, if they don't know who you are, they don't know what you do, they don't know how you uniquely do it and the benefit to them of working with you, they're not going to pick up the phone and call you. They're going to call someone else. Now, one of the things I want to ask, and I'd like for you to take a piece of paper and write down the type of business that you're in. I want to give you just a moment to do that because we're going to do a little exercise with this that I believe is going to stretch your thinking. So as you've got your piece of paper, write down the type of business that you're involved in. And I'm going to give you just a minute to do that. So I'm going to pause for just a second and let you think about what you do. And I'm going to let you write that down. Okay, fantastic. Now, let me take a guess. If I were to put my Swami hat on, I would say a number of you probably wrote down, I'm in the insurance business. I sell life insurance. I sell annuities. I sell long-term care, Medicare supplement, property casualty, whatever it may be. Well, if you say that the business that you're in is the insurance business, I hate to tell you, but you're wrong. Now, maybe you wrote down, I'm a financial planner. I do fee-only advising, or I'm an investment advisor representative, and I only work with my clients in this arena. And maybe that's your business that you see yourself in. Well, I hate to tell you again, that's wrong. Or maybe you come in and say, I'm a stockbroker. I help people buy when it's low and sell when it's high. I get into options trading. I do cryptocurrencies. I'm in some type of investment business, or I'm a banker. I'm a real estate professional. You pick the trade that you're in. Well, if that's the business you say you're in, again, it's wrong. So you say, okay, John, what business am I really in? I've got an insurance license. I've got the Series 7. I can sell stocks and bonds. I've got a 65. I can do investments. I'm doing all these other things. What business am I in? Well, ladies, you need to understand that the very first and most important business that you are in is you're in the marketing business. Because if you're not marketing yourself, if you're not telling your story so that people know who you are, what you do, and how you uniquely do it, then guess what? You're still invisible. Your number one job is to do one thing, to tell your prospective customers who you are and what you do and how you uniquely do it. So how do we answer that question? Who are you? And what do you do? Now, I want to give you just a minute to think about that and to jot down 3 things that you do, what you are and what you do. I want to give you just a minute to do that, and then we're going to move forward. So, who are you and what do you do? Okay. Now, you've had an opportunity to think for just a moment about who you are and what you do. But let me see if I can challenge your thinking and move you outside the conventional box that most of us find ourselves trapped in without even realizing. Well, it's not about your product. So if you put down, I'm a life insurance agent and I sell life insurance, it's not about your product. If you're a fee-only advisor and you sell exceptional service or you sell some fee advisory service, it's not about your service either. It's not about your licensing that you've got. It's not about how long you've been in the business. It's not even whether you got degrees or certifications or letters or numbers after your name. None of that really matters to your customer. In fact, I hate to tell you this, but it's not about you, period. It's about what makes you unique or different. That's what your customer wants to know. When you are having a conversation with a customer and you're telling about all these amazing things that you do, half the time they don't understand the language that you're using because they don't speak insurance or investments or financial planning or whatever it is that you do. One of the questions they're asking is, what makes you unique or different than every other insurance professional I've talked to, every other investment advisor I've spoken to? Why should I choose you? The second question that you've got to make sure that you answer, that the client wants to know, is, can you uniquely solve my problem? I've got something that's keeping me awake at night. I'm anxious, I'm frustrated, I'm concerned, I'm afraid. Can you help that problem and that fear and that anxiety go away? And how do you do that? The next question you've got to be able to answer to the clients that you're working with and the prospective clients that are interviewing you to see if they want to hire you to be the person to solve their money problems is, can I trust you? Are you reliable? Are you competent? Are you really good at what you actually do? Those are the questions that you need to answer. And everything you do from a marketing perspective needs to answer these questions. But if you go look at your website, does your website answer these questions? Do you answer these questions in your social media posts? In the emails and the letters and the postcards that you send to your clients, are you answering these questions? Likely, no. Probably if I were to go visit most of your websites, you talk about the fact that I sell life insurance, I do group health benefits, I do executive bonus, I do estate planning, I do charitable planning. And you talk about all these things you do. Well, guess what? Everybody else is talking about the same thing. So if you want to stand out differently and be recognized as unique and different in the marketplace, there is one overriding question that you have got to answer. It's the conversation going on in your client's head. And everything you do from a sales, marketing, and branding perspective has to answer this question. And here's the question. Why should I, as a consumer or a prospective client of yours, choose to do business with you over any and every available option to me, including doing nothing? Why should I choose to do business with you? Does your sales, your marketing, and your branding, does that uniquely, consistently, and cohesively answer that question? Now, chances are you probably never heard something like this from an IMO before, because most IMOs are focused on product solutions. We kind of do things a little different here at Vision, because if you can't get in front of a qualified prospect, all that other stuff doesn't matter. So when you think about your message, what does your message say? And if you were to have to answer that question, why should I choose you? I want to give you just a moment to begin to think about how you would answer that question. So I'm going to pause for about 30 seconds and give you a chance to jot a few notes down of how you can answer the question going on in the client's head. All right, we're going to give you an opportunity to work on that some more, but I want to go back and I want to talk about creating a unique selling proposition. Now, you may say, John, what in the world is that? I had an opportunity just a couple of weeks ago to listen to an interview with a gentleman from England. And this particular gentleman was absolutely fascinating. His name, I'm trying to find his name here on a sheet of paper, was Drayton, D-R-A-Y-T-O-N, Drayton Bird. And he began to tell the story of the unique selling proposition. And I was fascinated because I've taught this for years, but I didn't know the origins of the story. And it was fascinating to hear about a unique selling proposition. Now, short form, what is it? It's giving you the opportunity in a pond full of yellow ducks to be the one blue duck in the pond that stands out in the crowd. So let me give you some ideas of a unique selling proposition. So who said this? Fresh hot pizza in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. It's Domino's. So who says this when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight? Well, of course, we all know that's FedEx. Who says this? Every kiss begins with K. Of course, you've seen the ads, you've seen the commercials. It's K Jewelers. Those are examples of a unique selling proposition. Now, remember, your number one job is what? To tell people who you are and what you do and how you uniquely do it so they can see the benefit to them. That's what effective sales, marketing, and branding should do. But it has to start with your unique value proposition, and your unique value proposition starts with your who. Now, not the Who, the rock group from the 70s and the early 80s, but I'm talking about your who, your ideal target audience. Now, when you think about your who, there's some important questions that you need to begin to think about as you're stretching yourself in your practice. Who is your who? If you were to think about out of all of the customers that you work with today, who is the ideal customer that if you could get in front of more individuals, more organizations, or more families just like that, who is that? That's an exercise that most in the financial services industry don't do, but the top 5% do religiously because they are constantly refining who their ideal target customer is. They micro-target who they reach out and who they focus their attention on because they've learned they can get greater results by being a specialist rather than a generalist. So who's your current customer? And when you think about the current customers you're serving, then you ask the question, well, out of those, who's my ideal customer? Well, number one, if your ideal customer is not your current customer, you're marketing to the wrong market. But if you're looking at it and you say, John, out of all of the customers I'm dealing with, only 10% of those are the type of customers I want to work with. Well, then what do we need to do to get you in front of more lookalikes of that 10% audience? That's a question the top 5% of sales professionals are constantly asking themselves. But how often do we get so busy working in our business, we don't work on our business, and we don't develop ourselves and expand our thinking to think differently about our business so that we can see a different outcome? So if we know who our ideal customer is, then we have to ask ourselves, what's the conversation that's going on in their head? What are the fears and concerns, anxieties, and the goals and objectives that they want to accomplish? And then you've got to ask yourself a question. Is this a conversation that you can help them with? So when we think into our ideal customer that we want to get in front of, number one, we want to identify what is the main problem that they want you to solve. Out of that, we've got to understand what keeps them awake at night. What is it that they fear the most? What's their greatest pain, their greatest frustration, or their greatest worry? Or maybe it's the one thing that they desire most. Maybe they're saying, if I could only blank. And you have an opportunity not only to help them fill in the blank, but bring that blank from a dream to reality. They're going to love you forever, and you become their number one hero. And guess what? They're going to tell others what you did for them. So when it comes to identifying your who, most financial advisors take the time to think about such things as age or gender. Maybe they even look at marital status or family status. Maybe they look at geographically where they come from, or they look at income and assets. And a very small number will look at the media that they consume. Because if you're trying to target your ideal audience and they're not on Facebook and all your advertising's there, guess what? You're invisible everywhere else they're looking. So most financial professionals look there. but the top 5% go a little deeper. And it's an area that we help producers do in our attractional advisor model training. We get you thinking about their hopes and their dreams, their aspirations, what they value, what their fears, their anger, and their frustrations may be. Who are the foes and the villains in their lives that they want to go away? How do they want to be seen? Image is everything with a lot of people. And understanding from an emotional intelligence perspective and a behavioral intelligence perspective, how they make decisions. Now, this is a process of learning that we take producers through, and there's a variety of different ways that we help them arrive at this information. But when they can gather these essential elements into their practice and dissect it and build marketing and branding and sales opportunities around it, exponentially their business increases and they have more opportunity than they've ever had before. But your who governs everything else. Because if you don't know who your target audience is and you're doing marketing and advertising, how much of your money is being wasted? According to a number of studies that are out there, 95% of all of your marketing dollars are being wasted if you have not gone through this exercise and specifically tailored how you're trying to reach your audience with this message. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to create a unique curiosity statement about what you do. Now, what do I mean by a curiosity statement? I'm going to give you a template for that here in just a moment. So when we think about a unique selling proposition, a curiosity statement, someone to, as you're speaking to a client and they say, tell me what you do, Kathy. Tell me what you do, Patricia. Tell me what you do, Megan. Tell me what you do, Catherine. We want to go to what we do, but in our minds as financial professionals, all too often, we want to talk about our product or our service, or we want to talk about what our profession is. Well, guess what? At the end of the day, customer doesn't care about your product or your service, or even about you and the profession that they're in. We heard Megan talk about this a little bit, and a few others in the last 4 days have touched on this. What they want to know, your prospective customer, is number one, what is the problem that you can solve? If they've got a money problem and they know you can solve it, they are much more receptive to having a conversation with you. If they've got a need and they know that you've got a solution to that need that they have, they're much more open to having a conversation with you. If they've got a fear and anxiety that keeps them awake and they can't sleep, and they know you can help take that away so that they can have some financial peace of mind, do you think they want to have a further conversation with you? At the end of the day, your clients want to know that you can bring them financial peace of mind. But if you look at how you're marketing, how you're advertising, how you're positioning yourself in your branding, chances are you are not doing this in your practice. And it's not allowing you to be as effective as you could be if you did. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it goes back to something Pat talked about just a few minutes ago when Patricia was talking about valuing herself. It's when you value yourself, you can then value others. And your customers want to know, can you add value to my life so that my life is better as a result of working with you? That's what your customers want to know. And if you can uniquely create a message that resonates with your audience and answers these questions, you're going to have an opportunity to get in front of more of the type of customers that you want to get in front of on a consistent and regular basis, and have that as a repeatable, duplicatable process, going to what we talked about early on in this training. So here is essentially a framework for creating a unique selling proposition. Also, you've heard it called a unique value statement. I love to call it a curiosity statement because we want to pique a prospective customer's curiosity. because this specific question lets them either opt in to say, yeah, I'm a candidate for what you do, let's talk. Or if they're not a candidate for what you do you really want to spend time telling them what you do if they don't want what you have, they don't need what you have, and they don't have the financial resources to buy the solution you bring? Of course not. So what if we could make the process a little easier? So here's the framework, and I'll give you a couple of examples of this. So I'm going to give you just a minute to write this down, but here is a framework to create a unique selling proposition. Now, this is something we do with many of the advisors that work with Vision Advisors, is we help them craft these statements and then craft the messaging and the marketing around it. But here's the framework. I help my ideal client. I'll give you some examples of what this looks like in just a minute. I help, and then you fill in who is the ideal customer that you want to serve, do something or become something, even if there's a problem that's in the way. So this is the framework that you can use to begin to build a curiosity statement. Now, here's another example and another variation of that. I help whoever your ideal customer is to do something or become something so they can accomplish a goal or an objective or see a dream become a reality. So let me go back to the first one again. I help my ideal client, whoever that is, do or become something, even if there's a problem that's in the way. Now you've got their attention. I help blank do this financially or become financially independent or become in some way financially better, even if there's a problem that's prevented them from having that occur in their life up to this point. And then the second variation, I help, again, my ideal customer do something or become something so they can achieve a goal, objective, or a dream. Now, let me give you an example. Here's one. I help people keep more of what they've saved for retirement so the money they've saved lasts as long as they do. Now, think about that. Someone says, what do you do? I don't say I'm an insurance agent, because if they've got a bias against insurance, I just shut them off. If you come in and say, I sell annuities, and they're a fan of Ken Fisher who says, I hate annuities, you just blew the opportunity. But what if you were to come in and say, I help people keep more of what they've saved for retirement so the money they've saved lasts as long as they do? Now, if that's important to them, you just got their attention. Their eyes opened up, their attention, they lean in. They want to learn more about this particular statement. Now, one of the programs we teach here at Vision Advisors is how to get people out of debt and use the money they would have paid in interest to a lending institution and use that money to save for their own financial welfare. And we can help them create literally $1 million tax-free retirement using this program. And here's a USP we created for that. I help people who are in debt become debt-free in an average of 9 years or less, including their home, even if they don't have any extra money to spend. Now, if you know somebody that's in debt and they want to get out of debt and they're thinking, I've got to pay on my house for the next 27 years. I've got $30,000 in student loans, and I've got another $12,000 in credit card debt and a car loan. And you're telling me I can get out of debt in an average of 9 years or less, including my home mortgage, even if I don't have any extra money to spend? Can you tell me more? Do you think a conversation starter like this works better than I sell life insurance, or I'm a stockbroker, or I'm an investment advisor representative? They don't care what you do. They want to know how what you do helps them see success. Now, here's another variation. I help people make sure they will never run out of money in retirement, no matter how long their retirement might last. Now, if you've got somebody that's getting ready to retire and they're used to getting a weekly paycheck, and as they're getting ready to check out from the workaday world, they're trying to figure out, have I saved enough? And is it going to last long enough? Or am I going to have to go be a greeter at Walmart or Target or work at Kroger's in my 80s because I've run out of money. And all of a sudden you speak to that audience and you say, I'm going to help make sure that you never run out of money in retirement, no matter how long it lasts. Do you think you've got their attention? Maybe you're talking to business owners and you come in and say, I help business owners make sure they can actually retire from their business with enough money to do what they've always wanted to do. Now think about the solopreneur, the entrepreneur, the small business owner that's been putting in 60 and 80 hours a week, every week for the last 20 or 30 years. And they've started trying to figure out how they're going to cash flow this. So when they sell their business or they leave it to their kids or they give it to their employees through an ESOP, however they move on, that they can actually walk away from that business at some point. And when they walk away, they've got enough money to do what they've always wanted to do. You know, I love Patricia sharing about the fact that she's had an opportunity to travel and to see some places around the world. Her business and the quality of life that it affords her has allowed her to do that. But how many business owners have been stuck in their business for years, dreaming about the day they could take their wife to Paris and they could go up and be on the Eiffel Tower and he could kiss his wife on the Eiffel Tower? I actually had a friend in business that was his dream. He and his wife had always talked about when they were young, he wanted to propose to her on the Eiffel Tower. Well, money was tight back then and they couldn't do it, but he wanted to take her when he had an opportunity to leave his business. He wanted to go to Paris and he wanted to say, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it with you. And he wanted to do it on top of the Eiffel Tower. Well, through prudent planning, he actually got to do that. And to me, it was such a really cool experience for him. He got to check that off his bucket list. But it was because someone spoke to him and said, I can help you actually retire from your business with enough money to make that trip to Paris and to give you the opportunity to go up to the Eiffel Tower and tell your wife, if you had to do it all over again, you'd do it with her. I can make that happen. Now, can you see how this type of marketing and advertising and branding can make a difference in your business as compared to what you may be doing now? Again, at the beginning of this presentation and at the beginning of my time with you, I wanted to stretch your thinking and to see how you're positioning your business and how you're positioning what you do in a unique and different way. I dare say you've probably not heard this message from other groups you're working with. And it's something we uniquely do with our advisors because we believe in it. We use this in our own personal practice that we engage in, and we help the producers that we work with do this to see success. Now, the goal in all of these unique value propositions is one thing. You want one result that happens, whether I'm using this message or this message or this message or this message or whatever message that you create with your own unique selling proposition. When you make that statement and a client asks, tell me what you do, and you open with a unique selling proposition, you share the value statement of what is the value of working with me. What have you done? You've told them who you are, what you do, how you uniquely do it, and the benefit to them of working with you. What happens and what do we want the client to do at the end of you making that statement? We want them to ask one question. How do you do that? If we can get a client to ask, how do you do that? Guess what? They just ask you to engage in a fact-finding conversation and a sales conversation to move them down the funnel from prospect to lead to sales opportunity to client to becoming a raving fan that introduces you to other people just like them, that you've got an opportunity to turn your business into a consistent, replicatable process that brings qualified prospects in your door every single day. Now, you may say, John, I do a lot of different things in my business. Let me share a couple of ideas on a unique selling proposition. Number one, your value statement, your curiosity statement, your how do you do that statement has to be in the language of your client. That's why when we're working and coaching the producers that we work with, we spend some time, we do surveys, we do fact finding, we do other opportunities to learn through research what the language of your ideal customer is. And we help you craft that message in the language of your customer. And out of all the things you may do estate planning and charitable planning and business planning and blah, 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 whatever it is that you do, guess what? You need one all-encompassing curiosity statement that defines what you do. Now, you may have other subsets of your business that you do, and that's fantastic. If you're multifaceted in that area, you can have secondary curiosity statements around subsets of what you do. But all in all, the main curiosity statement has to speak at a macro level of what you do, how you uniquely do it, and the benefit to the customer for working with you. And then as you identify other specific needs, you can have secondary curiosity statements. Those how do you do that statements that take that conversation even further and even deeper. But you've got to make sure that all of your statements are congruent. So now it's your turn to begin to think about how you're going to change your practice for the better. I hope and believe that what we've talked about over the last few minutes has made sense to you, and it's give you an opportunity to think about your practice a little bit differently than you have up to this point. Your goal in all of this is to be able to be the blue duck in the pond of yellow ducks. Because if you think about what's happening every single day in your business, no matter where you are in the United States, you are not the only voice that is vying for the attention of your customer and your prospective customer. You're not the only financial planner. You're not the only insurance agent. You're not the only stockbroker. You're not the only whatever it is that you do in your particular community. So as a result of that, if you can think about the fact that you are auditioning on a stage for an audience of your prospective customers, but you're not the only one on the stage. There are other financial professionals just like you also on the stages that you are on. Newspaper advertising, radio advertising, television advertising, direct mail, email, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you may be advertising, that is a stage. And you are speaking from that stage, but you are not the only voice from the stage. Now, imagine if everybody is on the stage and they're all saying, pick me, I'm the number one guy, I'm the number one gal, pick me. And everybody's yelling and screaming to get the attention of the audience. But now you've been handed a bullhorn or a microphone that's hooked up to a PA system, or you have an opportunity to be elevated and put on a pedestal so that you stand out in the crowd, different and unique from every other voice that's crying out for the attention of the customer. And you are uniquely speaking to the conversation that's going on in their head. You're uniquely speaking to their fears, their concerns, their anxieties, their goals, their dreams, and their ambition. And you're saying, I understand. And not only do I understand, I can help you solve that problem. I can make that fear go away. I can make that dream a reality. And here's the benefit of working with me. Do you think you're going to attract more customers than the 95% of ineffective, mediocre, average marketing that's taking place in our market today? That's one of the things we help you do. But at the end of the day, whether you do it with us or you do it with somebody else, you've got to create a unique curiosity statement around who you are, what you do, and how you uniquely do it if you want to stand out in the crowd. The goal in all of this is to get the right message to the right person at the right time using the right marketing medium. That's the goal to achieving success in the financial services industry. So I want to take some time and I want to just say thank you to all of you that have participated in our summit over the last 5 days. We've had an opportunity to hear from some amazing speakers. And I'm going to be pushing out the opportunity for you to hear what we heard today from Patricia Allen in our morning session and what I just finished sharing with everybody else this afternoon. Now, we told you that the videos were going to be up for 48 hours. Several of you have reached out and says, John, can you leave them up a little bit longer? Well, here's the good news. We're going to do that for you. And I'm going to be sharing later on today, after we get session 5 loaded, I'm going to push that out to you and give you an opportunity to have access to not just session 5, but all 5 sessions. We're going to leave them up all weekend long to give you an opportunity to hear that message, to share that message with other female financial professionals that couldn't be here, but needed to hear the messages that were shared in each of these 5 days. Now, I'm also going to be sharing, just so you'll know, I'm going to be sharing your contact information with all of the speakers that spoke on the stage, because every one of them have asked for an opportunity to send you a personal email thank you, to thank you for being a part of our summit. And many of them want to follow up with a special gift that they want to offer you as a way to say thank you for being a part of this inaugural Women's Empowerment Summit. Now, I want to say thank you to Kathy Gumbiner, who really helped create the concept of this and to bring this to our attention. And I want to say a very special thank you to the amazing women who work on our team. Melissa McNana, who leads our business consulting team, a phenomenal lady. She is a walking, talking encyclopedia of products and service solutions, one of the best in the industry I've ever had an opportunity to work with. She and her team do an amazing job in case prep and case design. Melissa Price, who is one of the ultimate superiors in providing what she loves to call an effortless experience in working in the area of new business and customer service. She's phenomenal. These ladies have been instrumental in helping put this event together. And I want to give them a shout out and thank them for serving the needs of our producers, men and women alike, and going above and beyond. We're set up to work not only in an office setting, but also to work remotely. And I appreciate the fact that oftentimes late in the evening, these ladies are jumping on their computer and checking to see what's going on. And oftentimes I'll get an email at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night where they've responded to one of our producers that needed something because they had margin and wanted to make sure that we were adding value and over delivering on what we do as an organization. And I want to say lastly, thank you to each and every one of you that came in to be a part of this event. You carved 2 hours a day out of your daily schedule to invest in yourself. You actually did, without knowing it, what one of my mentors, Christian Simpson, said. Remember, he said, the quality of your business and the life that it affords you and your family will never outperform the quality of thinking that you bring to it. So develop the owner, not the business. You've done that these last 5 days by investing in yourself in being a part of this summit. So I want to say thank you for participating. I want to say thank you for engaging. And on behalf of all of our speakers, thank you for investing in yourself. Thank you for the amazing job that you do in serving the customers that you serve. You do so with excellence and you do so with grace, and I appreciate that. Now, we here at Vision Advisors would love an opportunity to learn more about who you are and what you do. And if you'd like to learn more about us, then I want to encourage you to visit our website, visionadvisorsinc.com. At the bottom of the homepage, you'll find all of our staff members listed there with a link to their calendar. And if you would love to connect to have a strategy call to learn who we are and what we do and how we uniquely do it, we'd love an opportunity just to talk with you about your practice. We'll share some tidbits, some information and advice with you. And if it's a fit and you'd like to work with us, great. If not, we'd still love to connect with you, to hear from you, to get your feedback on the event, so that when we do this again, we can make it bigger, we can make it better, and we can reach more women with this empowerment message. If you know a great speaker we need to consider, we'd love to hear that as well. So again, ladies, let me say thank you for being with us. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for the amazing work that you do. I wish you tremendous success throughout the remainder of 2021 and the years that follow. Go have a great day, a great weekend. Keep making a difference. Be a woman making history. So ladies, thank you.